my best part of the story, of course, is the first phone call that I did as Rovio. I was dumped this crazy inbox of emails from brands and different people that nobody had time to reply to, and there was so many amazing opportunities, but there was that one that I had to pick up as the first one, and it was NASA.
NASA, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was like, okay, this is me space freaking out. I need to call these guys. Like, we need to figure out how it's going to work. And of course, the people on the other side, Bob and Bird, were the nicest guys to ever talk with. And they saw the opportunity of what it is to harness the community and what games can really bring, especially when it comes to younger people who are playing and engaging and interacting with the game. They're able to pick up something more than just what we're giving to them. We can actually input some information there, or even a link to NASA's website. That's good enough. So small things that can be done there. So the initial call with NASA was extremely fun, and I pretty much giggled my way out of that meeting room that we need to do something with these guys. And that evening we had the first concept ready, how it would work out. The next day I saw it in action. How can we use our existing game engine in a microgravity environment? It was like, this is amazing, we're on fire. And a year later the game came out. So quite an amazing first few days in game industry.
I think, if I recall correctly, you told me once that you got out of the call with NASA, you got into the office with Peter Vesterbacka, Niklas Head, Mika Head, and Petri Jarviletto.
Yes.
And you basically summed up what you said, and it was like, I don't know, 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m. It was very dark in Finland already for hours, basically. And Petri started drawing some stuff on the blackboard, on the drawing board, sorry. And if I recall correctly, the next morning you had a prototype in your mailbox when you came to the office. Overnight, somebody did something.
Yeah, Petri just picked it up immediately. He was drawing on that was like a whiteboard or like a flipboard, and he started thinking like, how could you change the gravity of the engine? Because that's the whole point of it. It is a physics game, so if you change the physics, we'll change it. Will that make the game actually in space? And the next day, yeah, it was in my email saying, confirmed, we can do this. Like, this is amazing. I don't even need to go pitching to the team. They've done it. But I think it was just excitement in the air for everybody.
As a company that calls itself Big Karma, I gotta love the serendipity of it all, because not only that moment you said, but month before, the reason why this email thread was even existing, it's because it all started with a tweet. And yeah. Bob Jacobs actually told me the story of the tweet. He told me, well, I was doing my, public relations job at NASA, and I was looking at Twitter, and that day somebody posted a joke about, we nowadays have more computing power in our phones to play Angry Birds than NASA had to set a rocket on the moon in the 60s. And he started looking into what do people mean, this Angry Birds? What is this? And then he looked into it and downloaded the game. And he saw that it was about physics. So he got really interested. And then, karma moment that could have, never happened, or could have been not seen. He tweeted to Angry Birds, hey, something around the line, people can still find tweets, it's history now. Hey, if there are pigs in space, we can help you send birds there. And then it all started with a tweet like that. Again, I've tweeted so many people who have never answered my tweets, and my tweets were funny too. And so, it could have just died on a vine, but no, that one led to you having a great call, and then Petri drawing something in the prototype, and then Angry Birds Space.
And it wasn't even. There were so many of those moments. There was also that moment when we were like, oh, we would love to do like something in space, like on the ISS, but we're too late to send anything there. Like, can we even send anything there? How do you send stuff to space? And they're like, yeah, but we already have Angry Bird in space. Like, I'm sorry, what? But we need to officially request to borrow it from the Russian team, because the Russians had already taken Angry Bird as their gravity indicator up in space, like just a bit earlier before we started talking about it. So it's like, okay, this is just meant to be. We need to do this. And of course, Mr. Pettit, that we ended up working with, the astronaut who was at ISS, he had brought eggs and green balloons with him by accident. So we were able to really conduct like a concoct a physics experiment from ISS, where he was doing like pigs and birds and eggs and everything in space, displaying how the microgravity works and everything. It was just amazing. Like, things just kind of like kept on working out for us, and it was really fun to feel the success of a project before it even went live.
The sheer amount of luck that you need for this particular bit is insane. So millions of people have watched it. If you haven't, type on YouTube Pettit Angry Bird Space, and you will see the launch of Angry Birds from space, where he plays with plush toys and piggies and eggs in microgravity to see how it floats. And as Maria pointed out, to get that plush toy in the International Space Station, you need a rocket ship. You need a rocket ship to go through space for I don't know how many days or weeks, and then bring that plush toy to space. But it was already there because of that Russian cosmonaut. So people who have watched the billionaires going in space the last few weeks might be more familiar with it. I wasn't the first time I heard that story, that to check the moment you enter gravity, microgravity, you have a plush in the rocket because it expands at the moment. And so you know when you type that's it. You switch now. And it's traditional in spacecraft to bring a funny plush toy that you like, and that Russian cosmonaut brought it because his daughter was a fan of Angry Birds and it was her favorite toy. And it was a few months before you wanted to do the stunt. I mean, the sheer amount of luck that in karma, it's like the universe is writing up for you. You should do this.
Yeah, and also like later on when I ended up meeting with a lot of astronauts, and especially the astronauts who were working on the educational side of things at NASA, they all had these stories. Like when they were growing up, they would read a science fiction book, they would have seen a movie. There was like a moment in their life that just absolutely got them convinced that this is my future. I need to go to space. I need to work with this. And when they started kind of putting that frame set, like this might be that moment for a lot of kids, like, oh my God, are we the next thing? Like, can we actually see in 20 years that there's going to be an astronaut coming to publicity and saying, well, I used to play this Angry Bird Space and I learned about the Mars rovers. So I ended up going to the space camp and then I become an astronaut. How amazing would that be? And that's just that little thought that I might have done my little share to inspire a few people to go to space. That's good enough. Well, yeah. Maybe not. We have a few more missions to do, I'm sure. But that was a really huge kind of realization that what games can do and what can I do as a marketing person in games. Like this is a driver for me, absolutely, that I can impact people's educational levels, or get them inspired to do bigger things, because the world is your oyster.
It was an eye-opening moment for me too, especially because you at Rovio were very good at branding and naming things. So soon after came the idea of stealth learning. And the tidbit that Angry Bird Space ended up being the #1 traffic source for NASA.com for 2 years in a row, and by far. So it worked. And hearing Bob Jacobs saying, this is a recruitment tool for the astronauts of tomorrow, such a big sentence from somebody at NASA, was like, video games can be the gateway to something. So video games is not going to teach you physics, but it might make you fall in love with space so that you accept to study the physics textbooks.